data analysis. I'm still having some little hiccups here and there. First of all, actually, they were software related because literally hardware, because my colleague's laptop had a challenge or has a challenge, but I believe probably end of this week I should be able to work it out. I received the comments. I think that was consolidated within the document, the report. Yes, I will be taking time to address them, and those that need data adjustments or revision, like we saw, will be will be worked on. Um, in terms of the methodology, yes, one key was on the map subtraction. I would say actually map subtraction was largely in the land use classification. But when we went to post classification computation, no, in terms of the subtraction, yes, under the land cover land use I mean say segmentation. But of course, when we came to validation, it was largely sample based. But then also, uh, it is thought of in terms of uh, data collection, which I believe the authority has been using and is trying to refine largely. We hope that resources will be allocated to the department going further to really refine this to those stratified areas. I'm trying to go through because I'm in some of the comments. Yes, there was an issue to do with the attribution in terms of the reported or use the data. For example, the National State of Environment Report, and then the data set, the data source was required for 2025. Yes, even though the National State of Environment references NFA, I assumed that if I reference the whole report, it actually means that all the sources within the National State of Environment are catered for. That's why I didn't want to combine to say National State of Environment report and then NFA. It is all combined as long as I talk about the National State of Environment. But if you find so, I could. However, there is a comment on separating emissions and removals on the line graph. The line graph was basically showing the land cover change. It was not the percent cover, okay, forest cover since for the past 10 years. So it was not on emissions. I think those were the quick ones. The rest of the comments, I find they are data related. And I would want to say that as of now, I don't have response because I haven't revisited my data based on the updates I needed. But also, I wish to give a disclaimer that the previously reported or the earlier reported results were really absolute and didn't look at the change. I'm very sure you noticed that. And that's why we had those ambiguous figures, which really was scary. So I'm waiting to incorporate into the report the change statistics And then we should be able to look at the emissions from the land cover change over time. So it is this that will give us the real picture, so as to align with the with the previous reporting. Yes, so that explains the comment that was on why the greenhouse gas estimates in the report were higher than those reported in the second uh, biannual update of 2019. Then in terms of let me see, there was something small here. Yes, but I wish to reiterate that um, I really appreciate your time and the the rigor you have given to reviewing the report. And I should be honest, I'm very committed to seeing that the report comes out uh, to the best fit of interests and objectives. Okay. 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 There was a comment on separating the carbon stocks for above ground and below ground. That is in that is section 3.3. Um, I would say that will be in the attachment in an vision. From that Excel you see, you realize that it will still be in the attachment because that will increase the tables within the body of the report. Though the reference here was the adopted ratio from the refinement was was 0.32, 232, differing from the old one. Oh, that was the best update. I don't know if that would be fine, but to me, the other tables, I would try to say that most of the data tables are added, removing the commas. Why- hmm, There was a comment also on how I did arrive at the figures for 2025, yet the documents referenced for 20 are not up to 2025. Still on the total biomass. 3.3, that is 3.3.1, that is table 5. Yes, 2025. No, that looks at the computation for this year. And in the source, I give the elaboration based on the biomass used, and then the classification for 2025 satellite imagery and the adopted biomass factor. So that's the explanation I can have of how we did arrive at those figures of 2025, removing the commas and then description of the methodologies for some of the data. Okay, that will be detailed up, especially with regards to biomass estimation, which I believe were explained maybe on the imagery used in terms of segmentation and all that. Yes, I think the rest of the comments are going to be responded to by the data that we shall have revised. Largely from section 3.2. Yeah, section 3.2 to 3.4. Maybe one thing I wanted to talk about was on the analysis of mitigation potential. Yes, in the revision, I selected Kagombe Forest Reserve because one of the, I would say one of the management practices has been the restoration works and the reforestation that have been done in the area by many partners, NGOs, NFA. We were there and we really had the tour of the restored compartments or sections. So we wanted to look at how it has changed over time. If I can just cast you something small here for what is being done. I believe I could also get some comment or what you think. But we are looking at. I want to see if there has been a change, which I believe there has been a change in cover of scenery growth. So I want to look at those statistics in detail. Yeah. I don't know if you can see a screen. Can you see an image?
Yes.
Yes. So this I intend to use this for the mitigation potential. I would want to use it as a case study because it will give us a justification in case of trying to portray. Yes, I look at the recommendation where you talk of linking the mitigation potential to the overall NDC targets. And one of the activities or management option has been restoration and reforestation. So when you look at 2015, you can see it was more of croplands, the yellow. There are many sections that appear yellow in the boundaries or the confines of the forest. But then after 10 years, we shall take time to look at the account of interventions that have gone there, efforts, and all that to give us the big explanation of the picture. of how we have come to this state. But then also, when we look at the change, at least we can see that the change doesn't, it still shows, of course, encroachment, but at least there has been some improvement within the forest. We still see more encroachment from the south, the the southeastern part of the forest, but at least we believe this will give us uh, some emissions estimation or analysis or sequestration potential of the forest in terms of restoration. That is, that's how I intend to work on the mitigation potential at a downscaled level. And then finally, what I can just talk about. Yes, in terms of okay, there was no comment on carbon on uncertainty. Yes, it is the same table that talks about the mitigation potential. Yes, I understand there was a mismatch between the carbon sequestered and emissions being equal. Yeah, this will be adjusted. So the rest of the reporting is going to be changed because this was absolute. And then in terms of the emission factors, to be used. And in any case, I will take a look at the National Stocktake report so as to get a good alignment, and if there is any information for me to consider. Thank you.
I think the floor is open, but now any comments, questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Vincent, for the explanations. But I think maybe yesterday we had quite a number of comments raised. Maybe you need to. I don't know whether you're looking at the comments we had yesterday. Were you able to get the comments for yesterday? I think maybe you need some time to look at one by one, because I can't go through them. Some of them are very forgotten because I was not there about what. It's some of them are about just the, for example, taking a second eye about some of the table headings, headings, make sure the headings relate with what's mentioned in the table, what you're stating in the table. Then I think you might need to define the scope of your work. That might save the readers a lot of questions for you. You see, if you define the scope for the reader, make the work of the reader easy. Then yesterday while we were reviewing, we were guided by the objectives which were in the TORs. And for example, on objective 1, you're identifying and reviewing the existing approaches and presenting new approaches. The feeling we had after reading through was that you presented what's mentioned in the guidelines, the pre-2009 and then the post-2009, which is okay. But now, after analyzing the pre and post, what's the Ghanaian context? What are we using? Where are we? What are we lacking? What do we have? Maybe if I could run quick into the report. On tables, yes, on table 3. On table 3 and 4, I able here on table 3 and 4.
Yes.
So this is what happens under tier 1 and tier 2 for the country. Would we have like that table telling by the country where are we? Because I'm sure at some point we are mixed, maybe we have a mixture of maybe some tier 1 and some tier 2, and that's not requested. So could you try to find out the country what we have? What are we missing and having and how that table? Then on the issue of the map subtraction, I think maybe this Edward maybe will give us some highlight. As if we've gone beyond the map subtraction, and from your explanation, I think you said that map subtraction was for land cover. Then some area estimates came in. I didn't get it where. But from what I know, that I think we've gone beyond the map subtraction. And if this report, if we publish the report and say that we are still on the map subtraction, I think it would be taking us kind of backwards. Yet we shall be portraying the country as if we've not advanced. Yet we've gone a step ahead. So maybe that needs to come out. Then I hope I'll be able to do most of them. Yes. Maybe other colleagues can come in and try to report some of the key issues we had yesterday. Yes, so no, before I did the mic, another issue was on the last objective. Which was in assessing the mitigation of potential forests, taking into account of the range of forest management practices. Yes, what you present in the document, which is table 7, to me I think does not answer the objective well. However, what you present in the conclusion, I feel it's what was supposed to have been presented up in the. Because in the conclusion, somewhere in the conclusion there is how you in the conclusion, I think that's like paragraph after the breaks. You try to bring out those different waste management practices and their potential. So to me, I think this is what you would have put up in the table. So in the conclusion, you bring it out well, but then in the chapter where you're discussing the mitigation potential, I think it's not clear to me. The other colleagues can just have say the other report some of the comments yesterday. Thank you, Vincent. Augusta. I would like to make one more comment, though, that yesterday we had comments which were running through the document. And if the rapporteurs capture them very well and you have time, address one by one, I mean, the report will look quite different from what there will be a greater improvement. So my ask is for the rapporteur to avail you with the detailed comments. Then we address them one by one. I mean, there were issues where we needed clarification to make the document better. There were questions where we questioned the data itself, which is not your problem, but and there were questions related to generation of specific data sets. So my proposal is for you to look at those comments and you provide a response to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Vincent, for the presentation. For the recap, unfortunately, I missed your presentation. I think yesterday I was not here. Because of some factors in office. And I got this report. It's now, I think I've had it like the third day. I'm still going through it, the report. So I was waiting to hear from what was said among the comments, like the previous speakers mentioned, but I don't remember it myself. I thought which one is already in there. But there are some things which I've already captured. The brief perusal of that. And maybe we can begin with those from my side. We go back up to my document. Yeah. Yes. Again, I have to give a disclaimer that I have not perused the document thoroughly. I'm just beginning to analyze it. But beginning with the executive summary, when you we have a sentence saying that this study evaluates Uganda's first carbon dynamics from 2015 to 2025. Reviews existing and emerging estimation approaches and assesses mitigation potential. I think it's like a summary of the objectives. My first question that comes from there is this year 2025. How did you generate the land cover, all the statistics for 2025 for this report? I don't know if that question was asked. Yeah, yesterday. It's my first one. Then the next paragraph, same is still in the summary, says, since the National Biomass Survey, NBS 2009, Uganda continues to rely on tier 1 methods, including map subtraction, detect host area loss, default IPCC emission factors, and biomass and carbon, biomass and carbon. And we use uniform forest classification without ecological stratification. This sentence packs a lot of technical information. First of all, this report 2009. I don't know which one, because we don't have a national biomass survey report 2009. I'm glad I'll be glad if I can get a copy of it and I read it and see. But what I know of is the National Biomass Study report. And our baseline technical report was published as 2003, not 2009. So I'm interested in knowing which report this one is, 2009. They refer to here, so that I can better address my comments. That's part one of the test. Uganda continues to rely on Tier 1 methods, including map subtraction and emission factors. I'll beg to differ on this. Map subtraction, yes, that was the technology then. But today, 2025, even 2023, where we started using the sample-based, integrating the sample-based approaches in forest cover, extents and estimations. I don't think this statement holds. This statement would be valid maybe 2015 and before. That is on the on the map subtraction thing. Then secondly, on the emission factors, Uganda has its own specific emission factors. So this statement is false and it should be removed from the report. We are not using global emission factors. So at this juncture, I would like to see the table of the emission factors that were used to generate this report, or that are used in this report. Because the idea is you should be having a table showing the emission factors for the respective strata. Okay? So I don't know if this is the report because I'm not going to get to the very end of the report. This is how I find it. But if it's not there, I request to see it so that I can compare with what we have. Because we do have it, I'm sure we have it. Because by the time I was joining with Forest Department, before NFA was formed, those emission factors were there. They were improved after some years in partnership with the work from, I think with funding from FAO, and I think the Ministry of Water and Environment. There are some improvements done for some parts in preparation for the REDD+ process when you're working on the frame. So I think we have to revisit that statement because begin by removing it and put there what is appropriate. But I insist on seeing the table of the emission factors that we are using for this reporting. This way it's mentioned, so it's yeah, let me first scroll down. There's a lot of figures that I'm seeing, but I've not been able to go through. But I'll do that when I've actually synthesized the whole report. Just waiting for those which caught my eye. Yes, this is section. I think this section 1.4, objective of the study. To identify, review the existing approaches and present new approaches of estimating emissions from forest from forest deforestation and degradation under land use, land cover change, and forestry activity. About agriculture, forestry, and other land use. So I hope these are presented somewhere in a table or in very clear paragraphs, because it will be very interesting for us as a country to see that we know where our weaknesses are and the improvements that we're aiming to get. I've not yet seen them because I've not yet gone down far enough, but just highlighting it. Then there's objective number 2.5, forest carbon stock losses and gains from 2015, 2025. And to estimate the number 3 is to estimate emissions and removes from LULUCF from 2015 to 2025. What's the difference between these two objectives? Because LULUCF has forestry in it, and objective number 2 has already indicated that you are going for. I don't know, carbon stocks, emission removals. To me, they are confusing, because if to say carbon stock losses, those carbon stock losses are concomitant with the emissions or removals. So, may you help me to clarify? Mitigation potential, that one I can jump, because that's a long story. I'm jumping to section 2.2.1, image processing and classification. Yeah, this one, the study used both ancillary data, satellite data, and it even included aerial images and ground truth data. And there also some GPS points that were collected in September 2025. What is the not? Okay, my question here is again, it relates to the other one. The first one, how did you handle the handicap of 2025? But down here, I'm seeing that you did not specify which aerial photos you used or that were used for the study, because it should be, were they from a plane, were they from a drone, were they from which aerial device was this? And where did they cover? How much percentage or where exact locations? Because I don't think you use an aerial images for the whole country. Because that one I know the budget is not below $1 billion shillings. When the scope of your budget. So aerial photos have to be well clarified. What device was used, what dates they are, and where they are targeted or where they actually. But if there's a national data set, no problem. I would glad to see it. The satellite, I'm saying we used Landsat 7 and Landsat 8. The problem I have here is that if I talk in 2015 to 2025, Landsat 7 was already damaged because it has got the LCS problem, which was never rectified. I don't know how I use that data to really get out good images for this work. And for the 2025, I would expect that you use Landsat 9, but I'm seeing Landsat 8. I don't know what reason is to that. Because maybe in a way you have to justify your sources of remote sensing data in your photos and separate pictures. Then these GPS points, how were they? What was the strategy for laying out GPS points? For the, I think was for address assessment. Yeah, for address assessment. How were these GPS points laid out to ensure that the the properly checking the accuracy of the resulting classification. And more about the GPS points, it really scares me. And categorically, I cannot accept that 200 ground truth points were used, much as the city was appropriate. Fortunately, distributed among 5 forest classes that was routinely used for accuracy assessment. If you don't know what routinely used, routinely by who. So I have a very big problem here. The remote sensing part is it has to come out very, very, very well. And the methods have to be well prevalent. And Uganda's circumstances must be well reflected. Much as we know there are other countries who do national there are countries which are good at doing their national land cover forest maps, like every year, I mean every 6 months. Yeah, 5 those are there, but we are talking about Uganda here. We are about our unique national circumstances, which don't allow us to do that. Because if we don't understand those ones, then you can what you report here will be claim that we're going to measure this when actually we can't measure it. So I request that the remote sensing, the sources of remote sensing data are well justified and identified. That's the aerial photos and the choice of the satellite imagery and the 200 ground truth points. These ones, I can assure you, cannot cover the country to give you an accurate assessment. As an example, when we are doing the 2023 land cover data set, we used 6,000, not less than 6,000 sample points to check our accuracy. 6,000. And that took us almost 8 months. And we are using a platform called Collect Earth, where we are looking at high resolution images, which you cannot afford, vis-a-vis the medium resolution images, which we can get freely, which we actually use. But if this point is a forest, can I confirm it in the high resolution image? Yes, it's a forest. Then we went on doing like that. It took a team of about 8 people to do that, about 6,000 points. So when I see 200 points, accuracy, I really get scared. What kind of accuracy is it? 80%, 90%? Because this number is so little and very prone to bias. Because I mean, how we have got 5 forest classes. 5. How do you just when you do 200 divided by 5, you are going to get 50 per class. Now the woodland class covers more than 1 million hectares. Okay, it's the biggest we have. What can 50 plots or points do that in such a class? Which is not uniform, by the way. The woodlands of Nakasongola are different from the woodlands in the Macho National Park. They are different from the woodlands in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and they are different from the woodlands in the East Karamoja area. So how do we take care of that variability? Sorry for getting on remote sensing because that is my background and it has been my work for the past 18 years. So I have to stick to that, and that's the core of my work now. Okay. Maybe somewhere, section 2.2.2 land use. The National Biomass Study Classification was adopted this time. Since the study categorically focused on the forest, Now, which study are we talking about? Is it the biomass study or the study of this report? Since the study categorically focus on the forest subsector or the IPCC guidelines, forest land was classified into the categories in the frame. So there is, because the previous sentence was the national biomass study, the following sentence was what is this study? What is the study? So we have to clarify to the reader who does not know the NPS that when you say this study, mean this report. Otherwise, they may think they're talking about the national biomass study, which does not use the IPCC class induction. So it may cause some confusion. So I think some clarification has to be made. Okay, I'm now at still the same section. I'm going to scrolling down. Yeah. There's a standard equation which I used to compute the one which is by pi variable something 2003. I hope this equation is somewhere there and the appendix is down there. Able to look at it. Because 2003, yes. Because the nature of the equation used to be your computation and will certainly determine the outputs or the outcomes of what you're computing. So we have to be sure that the equations are able to look at it. Or we say accept this one because I'm not sure this one specifically. So I'm not reading about it. But I would like to see if the formula is in the document somewhere. Scrolling down once. Going through the pictures from the for some different classes. The choice of photograph for it. Tropical high forest well stocked. This is a good photo, but the person who has also been in Uganda we tend to imagine tropical high forest have got trees growing in lines, which is not correct. If you look at it, it is fine for us as forests as well, who have gone through the Royal Mile way. But when you take a transit off this road and you enter the forest like this, the picture changes from this. So maybe you can look for another more representative photo of the setup of a forest. Yeah, the photograph of the woodland. We should use a better photograph. This one is not very representative. It's not because we know them as open forest types with the predominantly grass and shrub under them. But with this photo, somebody may think that the whole thing is big because most likely the photo was taken from the road. We need an oblique photograph for such classes. Oblique photographs to do best. That's why even the plantations from here, but the forester will know that this is plantation of eucalyptus. But now you not see the lines open. But an oblique photograph will show you the lines and the formation of the the blocks or whatever in the how the plantation is established. So choice of photos matters a lot because they say photos share 1,000 words, but here our photos are not the best. We need to get better photos to present these classes. Well, this one brings out curiosity when they are the non-forest covers classes. We talked of inputs from land, commercial, subsistence wetlands, bushland, grasslands. Ideally, since we are trying to describe your land cover types to the reader, this one should also have photos. How does wetland look like? Most people think wetland is papyrus. Not all wetlands are papyrus. So bushlands, people don't know what bushlands look like. So they are not the main theme of the report. They could be their medicines, for example, but don't deny the readers to see how they look like, because people don't know. I'm going to section 2.3, which is the heading is forest degradation, emissions, and removal estimation. Ideally, this paragraph should start with the definition of what I'm calling forest degradation. Much as I'm seeing it is in the caption, the one with the footnotes. It's in the footnote, I think footnote 7. Why isn't it in the main text? Because forest degradation world over is a very big problem for people doing remote sensing and GIS. Characterize, estimate, identify. So you have to define your degradation in the context of your reporting so that the reader knows what actually you're talking about. So personally, I don't think it's appropriate to hide it under the footnote. It should be the definition. Because any forest or any environmental person will say, how is Uganda defining its degradation? What's degradation? And of course, I'll put them where the definition comes from. So I'm jumping to section 2.3.1, forest biomass estimation. Here I'm seeing the National Biomass Study, NBS, NFA 2009, forest imagery that was used for site biomass stock values to certain land use land cover classes, which were then mapped out to estimate the extent. Forest cover classes followed. Forest cover classes followed the methodology explained in section 2.3 above. The way this statement is put, it is in English, it is not in science. It should be both in science and in English. Because why are you referring somebody to section 1.2 above when you get the heading here saying forest biomass estimation? You do it here instead of referring to somebody to 2.2 above. So somebody has to go up. This one to 2.2 above. 2.2 above says forest cover estimation and change analysis. Now, you see, the there's a mismatch. This one is forest cover estimation and change analysis. Then down there it is biomass estimation. Now, how was biomass estimation done in forest cover estimation and change analysis? So I think there's a mismatch there. Put the biomass estimation where you are put the heading for biomass estimation. So people don't go 2 subsections up, go to look for them, they come back down. There, my supervisor will go back and read. You don't give the reader a lot of work to understand your work, which this arrangement is doing. There's this section which I didn't understand well. It's called, okay, it's not even numbered, it's below the text box. Alignment with the 2019 refinement. So why this is very much as consistent clarification. What I don't know what were you checking whether these were done or because I'm seeing ticks at the end. I mean at the start of the statements, but I don't understand what these ones are for. Maybe before I leave this one, again, I would like to see how the mathematics behind the what's the biomass estimation, because the formula is there, AGB plus BGB and the area. But how was this actually done? I'm expecting to see some your spatial calculations somewhere in the appendices or somewhere. Remember, I'm picking out what caught my eye, like on the first page also. I'm jumping to section 3, which says study findings. Again, I'm seeing, okay, there's a strong reference to this IPCC refinement, the guidelines. Do we have a copy and a paste of this at the end of the report? This refinement, which is mentioned many times in the report, do we have it as an appendix in the report?
No, we don't have it as an appendix. It's a whole document. It's a whole volume of a report. Literally, this precedes the 2006 guidelines. Okay, so it gives an update on each and every categorization of IPCC and guides member countries on how to revise their emission reporting.
Okay, that being the case, it's a big volume. I'm sure there's that part of that volume that was used for the calculations in here. Maybe you can just extract that and paste it somewhere in the appendices, but somebody does not go to the IPCC website looking for this refinement. Remember, many people don't have that time. Those who are not, especially those who are not scientists, or those who are not very curious, they'll just read what is here. So I think it's important to just make the text which is relevant to this study, paste it, and then you refer to that either you provide a link or something where somebody can go and read the whole volume if they want. But it should not be absent because I've seen it so many times here. And in addition to this, much of this one is being overemphasized. You are not emphasizing the presence of the national emission factors, which are generated by under the Forest Department and the National Forest Authority. The two should be going together. We are adopting the IPCC hours, not the other way around. Because we're supposed to have national factors for us to use. In the past, during this is just a piece of history. In the past, during the Forest Department, there was a project called the biomass study, where the name comes, where this report comes from. And there was, under that project, a lot of sampling studies were done with support from government of Uganda, the Norwegian Forest Service, and mainly the Norwegian Forest Service, to pick data for. Now, this is a real in situ data to inform the emission factors of the country. Okay, it was a lot of work, and the members then did what you call destructive sampling, where you go to you say you first do a remote sensing and determine that this is a woodland in Nakasongola. How big is it? It is 52,000 hectares. How many representative samples do we need from it to get an emission factor for such a woodland? They say maybe 25. How do we space them within the woodland? It was all scientific. Points were picked on the maps, navigated using GPS. The plot was demarcated 50 by 50, slashed down. As you cut down the entire plot of vegetation, and you put the everything on a weighing scale to get the weight mass. Then samples are taken to Material University for dry, where they did the oven drying to get the dry mass. And from all those things, that's why even the Ugandan biomass equations were derived from. I've not seen a biomass equation for Uganda, but we do have them. So we got both emission factors and what we call the Uganda biomass equations. So for me, when I see, as a Ugandan, when I see IPCC here, I get disheartened because the work that we did then was shared with IPCC, and the IPCC improved their own tables. Okay. And the project manager then was called Paul Chichi. You can talk to him if you can. He was the national focal point for that activity. It was the IPCC correspondent focal person for Uganda when it comes to these things of unfolding. And this was leading the inventory unit. There was this exchange of results between Uganda and IPCC. So IPCC got some of the improvements from Uganda. So we should not underestimate what was done in the past by hiding it, by not presenting it. For example, I would ask, how does the new equations compare with the Ugandan equations? Which one is better? Have we improved in technology-wise or what? So that's something I feel that should not be okay. It may not be appropriate for your report, but it should be mentioned somewhere that they do exist. Because I was not really this will see that you guys use IPCC. Okay, if you use IPCC for this report, does the country lack emission factors and the biomass equation? No, we don't. Because they have published the 2003 biomass technical report. I don't know. Does that become the negative of this? The biomass technical report 2003. Because we've got very far to help them to understand the things. But the NF website is okay. Okay, that's a digression, but I've talked a lot of patriotism. because I know where we are going, they're supposed to be used in Uganda, not like this. We just adopting IPCC and we are Ugandanizing it. Okay, I'm jumping to section 3.1.1, existing approaches, and that is pre-2019 refinement of the 2006 IPCC guideline. So I'm assuming this is the method Uganda had before 2019. That's my assumption. And I'm seeing the listed use of global. But you think of global emission factors, please. Unless otherwise, I should get advised. We don't use global emission factors. I have to consult again my colleagues in the sector, but yes, there are some we modified, but I mentioned that when we're preparing the frame, we saw some which may need updating, and FAO brought money, brought to a measure, and a new list of IPs and of emission factors came out. So we do not should be careful when using, report IPCC emission global factors. Some reports could be using them, but for this study, I don't know. And I maybe put it in context. Maybe I just shown it the way are there. We are not supposed to be using them for money. We should be using our. We should be proving what we have, not the global factors. The thing is compliant with the method that they provide. Make sure that what we do is compatible with IPCC. And of course, you have to provide the right of buying that.
That is a stress. So that's stimuli. Those existing fusion drivers where some fusion drivers are missing, because it's an advice to use.
Okay. I can see there's something about map subtraction. Okay, that one is there. I'm seeing it cannot be taken. Lacks biomass strength. This is not entirely. We know the weaknesses of map subtraction because it is prone to the errors in either maps that are used. But if the maps are okay, you're going to get the change. Because if, for example, how do you estimate biomass loss in the same class? And how do you estimate biomass loss between different classes? From one class to another, when in transition classes? To me, map subtraction has no problem. The problem can come in if your maps, the maps you're feeding in are inaccurate. Okay? The method has no problem. It is the maps that you're feeding in that can cause the problem. Okay? So this one goes back to the how good is your map in time one? How good is your map in time two? There's no reason as to why I should get a wrong result because the method is map subtraction. No. If it was a forest, it has changed cropland. I'll get that portion of the forest that changed cropland, so many hectares, I know how much biomass was standing there, and I will estimate it. So if my forest map was okay, and the agriculture map is okay, the difference between the two should be okay. So what I'm emphasizing, the method per se is not the problem. The problem is in the maps that you feed into the method. Okay, I've talked about the IPCC. Uniform classification. Forest groups broadly, e.g. tropical forests and ignorance, ecological variation. This one could be the refinement I'm hearing about. For example, if I'm looking at, let's say, Budongo forest, how many classes am I supposed to get from there ecologically? And what significance will that be as far as emissions and removals are concerned? Not that you can't do it, because we know ecologically Budongo has got areas which are dominated by albicias, there's another area dominated by the ironwood, there's another area which looks like or tending towards the open forest like Itigo side. But first of all, what significant difference does it make to disaggregate at that level in the same forest stand? Two, how much resources do you have that? And how often are you going to do? Remember, these reports are usually required. Usually it's an annual thing. Every year they want a new thing. Do you have the satellite imagery to help you do this? Do you have the ground sample, the inventory sample plots in each of these systems where you have the various, what you call ecological systems, to really characterize them well? We can do it, but you should also be prepared to have a budget that is close tending towards that of UNRWA or the former Rhodes Authority. It should be in trillions, because you're going to be deploying everything you have to have everything done. So that's now it comes back to the national circumstances. How do I understand our forests? What are those efficient ways that you can actually use to get maximum information out of them for this kind of reporting? Now you go into the Nakasokola, Ruwero, woodland areas. They will have open trees with grass, almost pure. You move to some county, it is open trees, grass with thickets of shrub. You go to another place, it's only trees and shrub. Or it's the same woodland. So by the time you do all that, that is time, that is money, and it directly impacts on the result that you're going to do. So, well, I'm talking a lot because I'm not related to the background of the project. I don't know if it was designed. I don't know who designed. I'm just talking from what I know as far as mapping the things are concerned. But I stand to be advisor. Single year reporting. Hey, wait a minute. For the uniform classification, I would like to share the suggestions that were made by the report. I hope they're down there. If we don't do uniform, what do we use? Possibly for plantation forest. When you map a very big plantation like Kuchao, some trees are going to be pines, some trees are going to be eucalyptus. And each block is going to be at a different age. Some are going to be 5 years old, about 6 years old, about 10 years old. How do you handle that? Again, we know how to read, but we know how much it takes. But some of these things can be unrealistic for national reporting. On the plantation level, yeah, we do it. We can give you the name of the who planted what when, and see the extent from there. But this kind of reporting may be a problem. The single year reporting, emissions estimated for a single year or a snapshot, misses temporal dynamics of degradation and regrowth. Yeah, this one is a given. We don't have a system or platform that does continuous monitoring of the national land cover, land use. We are not yet there. So we are going to continue depending on this. When the technology improves, when the manpower is beefed up, when the computation power is okay, we can do that. Not that we don't know about it. There are limiting factors as to why even do it. Then the manual data aggregation, data compiled from disparate sources about spatial integration. This one concerned me. I didn't understand by what this statement means. What is disparate sources about spatial data integration? Because from where we're coming from and what we're trying to get, there is no way you can talk of emission factors or changes if you have not done a spatial integration. So I don't know which statement this one is talking to. I need to be home. After the table, that's why Uganda still uses the rise on entire 1 pages and it's 45 uses. If they can focus the availability. Limited country specification. Generally, Uganda lacks nationally in the biomass spatial factors and carbon stock values for many forest types. Most may still depend on it. This one I've said it many times, it should be deleted. Or you say that the emission factors of Uganda can be improved as follows. They have these ones, but this one can be improved, this one can be improved for this. You can create a new emission factor for this kind of forest. But this sweeping statement, neither. It takes us backwards. We have done a lot of work. Some of us have lived half our lives. So, and this doesn't pass. Insufficient food data and event recovery, that is correct. Because we know the reason why. All government of Uganda, even donors who support the sector, there's something they dread and fear, and that is the forest inventory. Whoever was presented a budget to do national forest inventory, they prefer that you sit down somewhere and make a report. They don't want to collect data. Why? It is very expensive. It is very expensive. That one must be well ingrained in our brains. So we just have to encourage the government to invest more sector in this activity of data collection. And the data will become available, to become more updated, it will become more spread out, instead of having it in patches. Because under the Norwegian support, I think we got about 5,000 biomass plots across the country. The areas that were not sampled were those ones which had conflicts, like the Asese area which had ADF, the north which had the Pony War, in West Nile, there was some kind of instability there, and the Karamojan because of the cattle lands. But the rest of the country is covered in about 5,000 biomass sampling plots. The budget was in euros, not Uganda shillings. So I think this statement can be maybe somewhere in your recommendations, encouraging donors, government, whoever to fund this sector, this activity more, since we have now realized the importance. We have realized its importance as far as our environment is concerned, our national reporting is concerned. That's okay. Then, number 3 was about fragmented MRV, and that is correct, but to a good extent. We don't have a unified system yet, much as we are trying to build one. under the ministry. That work is that effort is still ongoing. Maybe after the match, the one we certainly will also be in there. Because by design, it's already it's really to be plugged in when that time comes.
But that's the constraint.
Of course, with such a system, you have to. The first thing you have to invest in is the human resource, and immediately after that, the infrastructure, and then data collection follows. Because they are because even the ones which I mentioned here, maybe to answer you that we have both systems which have been set up, work on some kind of scope. The people are there, the system is there, and then there's no money for data collection. However good the system is, so long as it's not given fresh information from the field, it's useless. If you keep on giving you the same old stuff. So those are things that we have to encourage our government and donors and focus on. Human resource, equipment, and money for education. I think that's where I so far, not going very beyond that. Let me quickly jump into the. I'm skipping that for I'm going to the tables. Now I'm seeing there's some first percent of land area 9.5. No, this table. This table 4, land use and cover in Uganda from 1990, 2023 years. The heading says 1990 to 2023, but I'm seeing the years are starting from 2015 up to 2025. So, where, okay, well, the heading saying 19, the table starts with the year 20. And goes up to 2025. Remember when I have a question on the land cover 2025? That one is there. So where is 2020? Where is 1990? And these fractions of 9. I don't remember recording a figure of 9%. In our land covers. Okay, I know the country is losing forest, but I don't think that we yet hit 9%. So this table must be revisited. And I don't know why I'm saying the source authors elaboration based on NSOER. I think this is a 2024 study. Okay, I would encourage the consultants to look at the source of this data. State of the environment report, this is, I don't know what they did to this table to make it work. Okay, let me put it this way. When I see 12% as in the lower right corner, the lower right cell, is it a figure from your estimations or this how it appears in the state of the environment report? Or is this table a copy and paste from the environment report? Because
No.
The caption says elaboration based on that report. and the study of 2025.
So the state of environment report brings it up to 2023, and then the study 2025 is 12%.
But you realize that the year 1990 is missing from
Yes,
1991?
yeah, I
Up to
was going to
50.
I was going to respond to that. Yeah, the naming of the table doesn't match the content. It will be worked on.
This one, I have to look into it because I'm seeing what all wrong. Maybe the guys who provided the environment report made some manipulation for the report. I don't know. Something. Yeah, it's possible. They can use the figures, can show something, and then present it as for that purpose. But this table, that's a lot of checking to be done. Seeing 12.7% for the year 2023. Our final figure for this was 12.6. There's some things are not clear in this thing. This should be checked again. And I wish to remind the consultant that this information comes from NFA, going to use other reports. So how I wish I consulted the National Police Authority. This matter. Right now,
4.4.
no. 2022, we as NFA, we don't have a figure. 2023 is supposed to be 12.6. Not 7.
And where that
And then this line,
where that is done for
the 12.
2025.
How?
What methodology?
That's what well, since I already posed the question above, I want to know how the 2025 was done. Its results and its everything. I can't comment on this scale because it's from the study. What? But these are the figures of 9.5, 9.9%, then 13. Okay. The thing is, the table is effective. We have to check it again to be sure that does not cause us problem. Okay, I think this is a rough comes from the table. Now. Okay, if I may ask the consultant, how many land cover data sets did you produce? Was it only 2025? And you use the old world data sets as they are, or you attempted to reproduce all the other?
No, it was only 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Because when I'm seeing that fluctuation is driven by expansion of broadleaf plantation, decline in THF flow stopped press from this to that, indicating degradation and conversion. Plan speak to that, but decline. This paragraph has to be well written. From a scientific point of view, since the subheading is fluctuation is driven by, these are not the only things driving the fluctuations. There is change of methodologies. We have not been insisted that we changed from the method which was used in the very first one of 1990. There's been an evolution of methodologies, how we are working. That is one. With change of methodology, expect something to change. Two, the the remotely sensed data has also been changing. We started with Landsat 5 and Spot 3 with area photos. Okay. Now these hours were taken in another plane and they are there in the decision there. So, but since then we have got Spot was phased out, now we have Landsat 7, which died after 3 years of operation. We've got Landsat 8, Landsat 9, now we have Sentinel, and we have now SkySat. Okay, so scientifically you should be able to know that all those changes in methodologies and the multi-sensing data can also contribute to these fluctuations, which is not captured here in our regulate points. So I would encourage that this is expanded properly as a scientific paragraph to reflect all that. So, see, that's just the step requires more study. It's not fitting properly. Okay, I've skipped the graph because it should be the question what's the impact of the refinement or the treatment team refinement. Okay, so the sentence was the 2019 refinement calculated the HEB stroke VGB ratio for points from this to that, following these chapters that are affecting biomass and carbon exchange. So, and here it depends. If you use the IPCC values, yeah, definitely. One biomass. Well, the 3 bullet points which I'm seeing, where you are saying that more now the refinement makes our forecast is more accurate below ground biomass. Estimates better, much as it reduces the below ground biomass. Inconsistency aligns with Uganda reporting global standards. Refine slot emission and removals. I don't think so. Refining a guideline by IPCC does not necessarily refine the data you're using. What you need here is proper inventory data, proper maps, which you use as these are the emission factors to get your values. The guideline may be good, but the fact remains that if you put in inaccurate maps or emission factors that are not appropriate, you get something which is not appropriate. And since it's multiplication, it only takes one of them to be contaminated. If the map is contaminated and use the emission factors, the output will be contaminated. Likewise, if the emission factors are okay, but the map is not okay, multiply again. So it should be all around. Emission factors should be okay. The land cover map should be okay and should be compliant with IPCC guidelines. But the way it is stated that because there was a refinement, our data is going to be better now. I don't think so. It will remain what it is today until we improve it. And the improvements we are working with them. especially the remote sensing. We are now very far. Because the next plan government, we're going to be using, we're going to be including other parameters that we have used before. And of course, those thousands of samples, checking points that I mentioned about. I'm jumping up from there. You know, those ones. Oh, okay, maybe if I may go back. Maybe if put the other way, the refinement aims at doing good things, improving accuracy, whatever. That's what the guideline is really past week. But we still have a job of collecting that data to meet those standards. That means we have to follow the SOPs we have for inventory, the SOPs for remote sensing and the cover mapping. Then we can benefit from this refinement. That's my understanding. Some intention. By the way, now colleagues from narrow, they're working on the road run upon these questions. That's what they take on. If you have an input to this program, Mr. They could be having some, yeah. Yes. Only one. Okay. So I'm not going to say much about the tables now, because whatever is in the table comes from up. If what is up is not correct, then the table is also. Maybe the question I have for the consultant: how were you reconciling NBS? What I'm seeing for elaboration this one, NBS 2009 and 2019. How are you reconciling these two sources? Could also help us understand what we want. I'm just running through the graphs. Maybe as other people contribute, I'm going to be able to see the recommendations, conclusions and recommendations. Let's go through them quick and comment from there. This guy is right now. So, let me just have a look at the maps and the appendices. That section now. I'm seeing in your references you have first department initial wetlands and environment report, national biomass study. So you have the report. This was the version before the publication. The published one, the one to 2003 past. Yeah, there's some slight differences. So essentially, you have the report. When I was talking about.
One published.
I'm just running through the maps. My comment about the maps. Without even studying one, they are not standardized. They are not standardized and it's going to be to the reader's confusion. They must be standardized. Secondly, I'm seeing some errors there. Yes, small maps. As the author, I can see my own errors, which were edited and corrected, but now they remain in your maps. This is an A4 map image, but I can still see the errors still there. (2025) very interesting. This one, I can comment on it better after making an overlay with in our system. That is if it is okay. And the change map is a direct consequence of the maps that we use. So it's either correct or depending on what I put in there. You want for the change map, where are the applications? Well, the abbreviations are so many that the reader may not be able to follow. These comments below about the maps, say they are not standardized, they have got errors. At least one of them has got an error. And then the change map, the abbreviations are not expanded out of the reader. Ideally, it should just be below the map so you can see PTP means what. CP is what. Otherwise, it comes too much work for the reader. Then there are these bullet points, I don't know what they mean. Agriculture expansion produce more workforce. Population growth that increases demand for resources from land. Timber production supply to the fast growing or something. That we have seen institutions. I think the consultant was trying to say all this factor that could be causing all these changes which are in the last month. This list is too short. These are not the only things. And population growth, people like music population growth as a factor for loss of forest. But the thing is, if you benchmark with other countries, how come that the forest cover in India, China, Japan, Korea is increasing? Yet their populations are higher than ours. And So population alone per se does not explain this. Population with other factors. There should be things with the management planning. How planned is your plan? Look like how forests happen. In most cases, forests come at the tail end of planning. Most people planning the forest, urban centers, road, but forest, I think that you can remove and put the other things. Just like wetland. When the factory comes, the immediate thing is where is the next against wetland. That's where the factory comes. So this list needs to be researched thoroughly and be built up properly, otherwise we will misinform our readers. And this thing of turbulence in the institutional framework, managing forests, it's very ambiguous. What do you mean by turbulence? Whereas we know that there are changes by government, you can put it in a better way, such that when a PS reads this, does not get offended. I think it's going to be read by many people, including politicians. Use the correct language for government changes or government actions. I'm sure it has got a name. Let's not call it that, because governments make it sound like a civil war or something like that. So I think for now, I can stop there. I can stop there. I hope I'm not bored with you.
Basically, what's detailed data? What will the detailed analysis about?
Yes, thank you very much, Edward, for really taking us through those comments. Mine is brief. I'm going to basically focus on a section that is 3.4, which talks of analysis of the mitigation potential of forests in Uganda. Of course, I understand this is linked to objective. It's linked that the last objective on determining mitigation potential of forest. Maybe colleagues, you will help me, because I think from inception, personally, I failed to really understand a clear method how this objective is going to be met. And of course, up to now, based on what I see, I'm still failing to click. I understand that, of course, some work has been done on determining the mitigation outcome, right from 2015 to 2025. But based on my understanding, the mitigation potential, they are more of projected scenarios, if I can put it that way. Of course, when you look at all the tables you gave, they are okay. For example, table 7 talks about mitigation potential forests in Uganda, 2015-2025. To me, I think that is not right heading. Maybe we wanted to state mitigation outcome by implementing, of course, actions as were identified under the NDC from 2015-2025. My understanding here is the consultant would have gave clear methods indicating assumptions. We understand that from 2015 to 2025, there are a number of strategies. Actually, from the current NDC, which is NDC 2, the number of strategies which have come, which at the end might have influenced some of the parameters. For example, the coming up of the National Development Plan for population census, among others. So I would love to see how in the consultants methodology, how some of the assumptions were determined based on the country's development plans and strategies to update or to model the mitigation potential of forests in the country. I understand that the topic of this also is going to lead to the ongoing work on NDC 3.0 updates. So there should be a kind of consistency with this work and work which is being done. We must have clear actions which in most cases are derived from the WEDD+ strategy. Determine the business as usual scenario. Right from, I think, for the case of this work, you would want to determine the business as usual, maybe from 2025 or 2020, it depends which strategy you want to determine. Then align it with the NDC time frame, example 2030, so that you can project if you implement activity A, B, C, D, this is what is likely to be reduced. And that becomes the mitigation potential. Then another issue I see is I think the consultant has to take into the consideration of that quality control, because when I look at the emissions, they're really big, 6 and 9 million gigograms. I think that's right. So that's what I wanted to put forward. And maybe you can give clarity. That was really good.
What? So now, that's what we do to see what we are the one of them. Maybe from the client's perspective, what do you expect, or what do you mean by what do you
on the last objective, yes, I think I don't want to preempt the recent inception, but I remember we said we will look at the forest management practices. Remember, you gave us a lot of input in the TOR. What we resolved that we will model forest management, for example, the standard, the sustainable forest management, restoration, and so on and so on.
Like a scenario.
We are not going to do the confusion we kept you in. That's class.
Yeah.
Sorry. You see, for my brother, Eric, some of the things we are improving in NDC is clarifying mitigation potential. Actually, up to now, even in the stock take, it has been difficult given the progress across the red plus potentials because you see they're cross-cutting. So this report will help us to give us the projection. But why I have come, I put my hand before Hope Paxas, and thanks Edward for coming. The pressure is to agree on a consistent birth effect we have in Uganda on forest statistics. It's unfortunate SC Kazungu is not here. I have sent you the forest resource assessment for 2025. You check. And the colleagues, some of us, like Edward has said, has spent 18 years on the data space. Then for us, we have spent more years also looking at this birth defect. And it will haunt us until either we harmonize or we decide to continue to live this way. I wanted you to project it. It is on email. Colleagues, if you have seen the latest Global Forest Assessment Report, 2025, it gives every country's forest cover by 2025. So I know much as the team at NFA, they haven't finished. FAO has done. And like my brothers told you, globally, processes don't wait for national statistics. Once there is a global database, we use a global database. And that is an international best practice. You like it or not. The same applies to privacy. If you haven't done your below carbon emission estimate, they will take the IPCC, you see the default values. They won't wait until you finish yours. And by the time you are doing that, there is one word which I have come to live with. It's called recalculation. Is it, Inspector? Recalculation. Now, recalculation is bringing more confusion because we have already used the estimates for so many policy things. Then you say, oh, I'm sorry, we have recalculated what we have been using for the last 10 years was below. You get me? And that is the global politics we are in. But I wanted my colleague to show. But anyway, let me do my small comparison. Colleagues, I hope you have all looked at the state of the environment report, the latest. And I want to concur with Edward. We have a problem. Is it? Our people don't want to be reclassified. Someone just copied this table the way it is and invested in the state of the government. I think we need to stop this practice. And for me, a snapshot. For me, actually, hope and sorrow. I'm going to be bit on you. When I see a report from SSD with such things, I will call you myself. And so please edit that table. So these people just copied the NFA, I think, report, including the citation. You download the PDF, including the citation that this was the cable 6. And you pasted it there. But the reason I'm taking you there, I want you to look at the area under forests. That is the forest cover in the green. I don't know if any of you have Albert.
When you go to the forest cover in 1990, we are saying, and if I may use Edward say, it was 4.933. It was 1990. For me, I'm telling you, I'm taking it a bad defect. You forget about what he gets considered. I'm showing you the challenges we have with forest statistics in Uganda. So we have an official report from NFA, which says it's 4 point. It came who prepared it. Now, yeah, okay, that is what we have in the state of environment report. That's the snapshot they do. .9. You see it? 4.933. Now, that's it. Only end up to that. Yeah, 2015. But he has said he's going to include up to 19. But I want to show you the birth defect we have. So that is NFA. But for is there a way I want to project? Because we have had these problems and today we need to resolve them before we go into the emission confusion. You search there, you search Uganda. So that is the national information. And by the way, let me also remind you, I want colleagues to note that plantations were estimated to measure 35,066 hectares. That is 1990. Legislature Uganda, it will come. It is there. It is there. You just analyze that. I want to show you the problems we have with the forest statistics. And you see why emissions in forests are difficult, that some countries prefer not to include land use change. But yet that is where we have the highest in terms of results. So, Edward, we are here. And the colleagues, I want us to pay attention. Now, a global data set, the forest resource assessment, which we all use, put us at 4.378. You get me? I want to remind you, MFA has 4.933. I hope you are.
Robert, can I project the screen? I think I'm on those figures.
Yes, sir.
Can I hear the project that screen?
Okay, yeah, you project. So, in the State of Environment report, in 1990, we had 4,933,730 hectares. Okay? When you go to the global database, like FAO resource assessment, FAO put us at 4,378,000. Okay. Then by 2020, Emma, you first search for another Uganda. Here you are talking of the natural regenerative. Go to forest cover. No, you search another Uganda. Just do this. Yeah. This is where we are. Forest area. So the forest area in 1990, FAO estimates it at 4.548 million. Huh? And then it has estimated that by 2035, the area will be 2,368,000. And it has already told us that the net loss we are using every year for the last 10 years is around 1.12. And you see, we are using such statistics. So 1990, 4.548. 2025, they have already estimated, but we have had NFA has not yet completed. And for them, they're saying it's 2.368. And they have told us.
No, we are not commenting on 2025.
We are not commenting, but I'm showing you the issues we have in.
That is the report.
Yes, that's
an estimate. It's a projection.
Yes, it is a projection. But I want to start from here up to here. Okay? From 1990 to 2020, the global database said we were at 2.5 million by 2020. Now, when you come to our national database, it's saying in 1990, we were at 4,933,730. And by 2019, because we don't have 2020, by 2019, we are at 2,707,266. 2,700,000, 2,700,000.
What they have been trading.
You hear me the value. 2,707,266. And the forest area was 13.2% in 2019. In 2023, the total forest cover was yes. In 2021, the forest cover was 2,460,909, and the forest cover was 12.2. Okay. Are we on the same page?
I'm following the current report.
Yeah.
The figure you have paid, the forest cover you have paid for it's not the same as yours.
Not the same as mine.
Yes. And the percentage of forest.
The percentage of 2019, here it is reading 13.2.
Here it is 13.2.
Then we go to 2021.
2021.
The
forest cover is the same as you have paid.
2,460,909.
Yes.
And the what is the forest cover?
The forest is 12.1.
Here it is 12.2.
That is the big difference.
Now, that is So you can see just we are comparing two reports, two national reports in Uganda. Now let's go to the global database. So the global database puts us at 2.5 million in 2020. Okay? I'm trying to show you the complexity of forest statistics. Huh? Now, let's go to an interesting area, planted forests. Excellent, there. So this is the global database for planted forests per 1,000 hectares. In 1990, FAO says we were at 170,000 hectares of planted forests. What we have in our national database, F by NFA, it puts us at 35,000.
What planted forests?
Now what we are coming in all that. Now, when it comes to 2010, okay, let's first go to 2000. 2000 NFA put the plantations at 21. That's 21,342. These people put it at 268,000. Let's jump and run up to 2015, because that has been like our reference point for most of these statistics. So in 2015, the global database put us at 416,000 hectares. At country level, we are at 107,279. Can you confirm if that is the you have that? You put plantation. You combine them. You combine both the erodic and coniferous. 107. So that means for us, we're estimating it at 107, global database at 416. Okay? Currently, 2023, we have estimated our plantations at 447. The global database puts it at around the 465. If you use the listed denominator. So there you can see that we are a bit within, isn't it? Now, I want us to be Uganda. Which statistics do you use? You see the dilemmas we have. But remember, in the Global Forest Resource Assessment, they say they use national data and they use the data from our maps and inventory. For the last 10 years, this has been my work with FAO, telling them how do we align these values? They haunt us. So colleagues, the consultant understand that also is boxed in the same confusion. Yeah? And by the way, it becomes terrible when you come to national reports. So how do we harmonize? Which figures do we take? And you'll find these figures we have just showed it to you, they have global presence that you'll find even in the UNFCCC relies on, because this is one of the global databases they rely on. The 5-year global forest resource assessment. So For me, I would ask NFA and FSSD. Now that these guys have projected 2025. Huh? Already I've told you when you go to forest, total forest cover now is what? Total forest cover in 2025, they put it at 2.3 million. See? 2.368 million. And by 2023, our total forest cover is 2.5. Isn't it? You checking that? It's 2.5. 0.594. Huh? Have you observed the changes? You will see from our side, we might have started from underreporting. And for me, that is okay. NFA by then, the manpower was still small, lowered, so you could report what you were able to do. Right? Then those people gave a figure which is 3 times what we reported in 1990. Maybe because for them, they had the access to technologies, those maps and what. Okay. Then when you move across those 30 so many years, you'll find that for them, they underreport our area. Then for us, we are overreporting our area. Because for them, they are putting us at around 2.3. Then for us, we are showing, we are doing a lot of restoration and other practices, we are at 2.6 million. So, where will we reconcile this? Tanzania invested in it heavily, they have reconciled. This is that one. For them, lastly, Edward has raised very fundamental issue. For example, the emission factor. And I want Eric to comment on the assumptions we use when we are doing the second band update report. That you'll find we are going to be locked in our own movie. I've just shown you just information on area, and you can see the different numbers we have. So what do we take? And also, how do we help the consultants to give us a picture we can take? In Uganda, we have actually disaggregated plantations, which is good. But at what point do we start disaggregating? Such that we make sure we are not losing information. Actually, for me, if you come to NDC progress, if I give you the figure for the plantation, you will be shocked. The figure we have reported on NDC, any under plantations. By 2023, we reported it as 149,000. 149,608. And that is NDC stock trade, which we have just completed. We have reported it as 149. But here, we have seen that in the State of the Environment report, plantations are almost at 447,719. And if you ask me, where did you get the 149? I'll tell you we got it from FSS. So the question is, why do we have these oscillating figures, even at national level? We are the same people. So for me, these are the pains I have when you're going the numbers. And colleagues, these numbers are the ones which bring confusion in what? Estimating. So how do we fix this puzzle? This study, part of its work was to show you the varying estimates we have and the different methodologies we use, and then we recommend a methodology which we can continue to use when it comes to forest emissions. Last time I sent you the frame. You see those emissions on the frame, including the emission factors which were used by them. The question is, are those emission factors still the ones we are using, or things have changed? Now that will come to the second biennial update report. What were the assumptions for estimating emissions from forestry? And the colleagues, if we don't resolve these issues, we risk making Uganda's forest mitigation potential a gamble. Because once these experts start to unpick inconsistency, they put a lot of question marks. Like the way they put a lot of question marks on the red grass results we submitted. Actually, for me, I'm still shocked that we got result this thing with those red grass results. I'm still shocked. Because these guys questioned the results. They questioned the 8 million we had bought on clear technical grounds like you had it. And we have not put in place mechanisms to address those challenges they raise. I've already had that Senate now is doing the below ground. Yes, we have not been reporting on below ground. But unfortunately, when you check in our inventory, some years we report, then other years we do. And no one asks. Because also FSSD doesn't ask the tough question. Because you see, by law, you are the ones who are supposed to give us information. Then the department consolidates. Because you don't ask. So we are all in the same birth defect I'm talking about. So as I conclude, how do we move forward? Before I invite my brother to give us the assumption for the biennial update report. So how do we move forward with this continuum? Okay.
Mr. Machika, and everybody here present. This is the first time we cry about problem of data. Over a period of approximately 20 years, the situation has been the same. Mr. Senor, you will believe with me that it has been like that.
And we know why.
And we know why. Which why I would like you to speak to. First of all, FAO, when FAO is compiling these reports, it has a time frame within which you have to respond to their request for data. And usually there is a reference person in the department that is responsible for submission of that data. And they are kept changing from NFA, from Forest Department to NFA, and now in the situation where NFA will be no more, then there will be another person coordinating the data. That alone is a challenge. They have old contacts in their FAO database for a person that has to submit that information, and therefore, if he does not submit, he doesn't. The FAO secretariat fails to get the country data. But even within the country, we have challenges related to data collection. That person responsible for collection of that data sees the request or comes across the request, but he will not be in time to meet that deadline. So the best thing for him to do, or best thing for her to do, is either remain silent, as is the culture here, because he cannot respond to that data request without talking to the PS or his department head. So the departmental head keeps thinking that he will beat the deadline. He does not inform the person or the person concerned with that data, who is always the commissioner, or even sometimes it is above the commissioner. That is the dilemma in which we are. But if we work around the clock, I think this problem is easy for us to turn around, and we start reporting positively. Data, yes, we can have that data, but reporting itself is what I want Mr. Senor to talk to.
Thank you, Machika. Let me begin from the disparities between any FAO figures with our figures. I don't know, I was trying to quickly look through that report, find out what the area of Uganda is. If you can get it, quickly, it can help. I have had my personal problems with FAO, because I'm in touch with some of the consultants. And the objection which we rose, the way they do that. It is true when they are going to report like, so the identified projection was done in, it was done in 2022. It was as early as that. It was done in 2020. And then uncovered 2020. Then they were predicted for 2025. So you find that automatically, me who is using the certain images to derive 2025, and you who projected, we are going to be having different figures. There is no way, and I support some elements of God in you. There is no way of telling how many Ugandans are going to cut the classroom roads, or how many are going to plant, and where. Can't. Because we see, if you look at the certain picture, you see how the things come up. Somebody plants eucalyptus 10 hectares. They those plant what they call the Kampala style. I don't know if you've heard of it. Very specific called Kampala. Very condensed. They grow for 2 or 3 years. Then it's smashing the whole thing. We already measured it as a plantation, not even here. Then when that person is making for maybe another year, he finds their being to be deforestation or the other round. So that is one automatic way why I was looking at figures. 2, the 1990 figures were very serious problem. I told the head of forestry there, because I met a chance to meet him. And I requested, let's maintain this figure as per the 2003 report, because this was work which was done over a span of a number of years with very detailed thing. And it has been used to plan for the forest sector in the country, NDP 1, NDP 2, and NDP 3 by the was NDP. And I was talking to him. So you changing our baseline in the country, just like that, not talk away with the government issues. But to say that FAO has got its own methodologies and its own. So I'm not surprised to see that. Now that's me as the national focal point for Uganda, talking to my boss in FAO. No, that's how we're going to do it. I asked about the land area. The land area, the total land area of Uganda is about 5 months. But theirs is less. So I asked, if this was an error that was committed before, in the FDDs, by the way, not even in FDDs, can they correct it? This is how international conflicts are manufactured. They don't touch boundary information. Leave it the way it is. So if you're going to calculate the percentage forest cover of Uganda, he's using his total land area, I'm using my total land area. We are going to be different. And I cannot be blamed to change the constitutional land area you have from the constitution itself, from the course, from its own lands, they go in that was like Uganda. But for them, they're maintaining theirs. So, but percentage was the figures come out. So those things are like percentage comes in birth. So it is a difficult to not go away that one static. But there's some things which you can correct, especially internally as a country. Those ones. For example, if NFL releases the land cover of 2023, the statistics in that table, I don't know why somebody goes and changes them to something else. Because NL is a source. If the NL is to be done, it will be benefit for them. But somebody reports it as a forest cover in those classes, mega figures, as chooses them. It becomes a challenge because in most cases, we are not there in those meetings to defend the changes. I know there are people who use our information as a base to pardon some multiplication factors, like something, and then you get outputs. It is okay for research and what, but maintain the source standard so that if something needs to be changed, you know where to go to change. But you find that the state of the environment, maybe they opt the wrong version of the thing. That's what I'm saying, 12.7.
And that was, I think, during any time, the final thing comes out at 12.6. So those people get an update. UBOS is actually our biggest stakeholders. UBOS, ministry, our own mother ministry, NEMA. They should not, ideally should not have different figures because they come from the same source. Where they come to, when they start deviating, that's the problem. And it goes towards the consultant mentioned by Vincent. He mentioned it correctly in his notes that the data sets are siloed, they are fragmented. Use the word disparate. Disparate. That was a very good observation. We should be looking at one data set, one source, such that whoever is going to use the data for forest classes for this year, you know that this data comes from there. Whatever you do with it is okay, but as long as you can say, okay, I got it from this data set for this year from this institution. But how the deviations come, I also can't indicate, I know. Because I would expect somebody to maintain or inform or clarify how the figure change from what he was given or he got. But internally, the weakness which we are observing, because right now we are working FL again. We're trying to narrow this gap. We want to narrow the gap of time, how much time we take to produce a data set, we want to go annual, because you're not producing every 2 years, we want to go to 1 year. But in that process, we also want to improve the metadata that goes with it. So that when you get a data set, have descriptive information about it. But when you are doing your manipulations there, you know what not to laugh. It is okay to do manipulation because you are trying to customize this data to your standard image. It is okay, but you should know how it was produced, the assumptions that were made, the oversights and everything. So that you get to know that, okay, I'm doing this, but I should be aware that they had a few plots in the something like forests. So that one is not the somebody just jumps on the table and that's it. And in most cases, they don't even ask about, I've done this, but is it okay? That's your opinion. And so I'm saying, and this, to me, all this goes to poor coordination and collaboration. I don't see a problem if any produce the data and we are not supposed to be part of the, let's say, by annual report production. It's fine, that's a government function. You can get a consultant to do it. But there should be some minimum standards made, which data are you using and how you're using it. It's coming from NFA. It's what they have given you, then you use that to produce whatever you're producing. So these questions go away. But if we begin by from the word, you go from the basic table and then figure out the change. That means that either there was a typing error or somebody actually figured out there. You can't tell. So, for me, I don't see the problem that NFAs, for example, is by annual by consultants, so the government translators supply them with the tables they need. Then they go and derive other products. So in that way, to me, I'm seeing this difference should be avoided. And if by some chance the reader sees that you guys gave us this table the other year, and now you're giving us the same table, I think I'm saying, they also get some that standard. That kind of feedback. But the way it comes out right now, because of many things being done, there's no cross-cut, there's no feedback mechanism that informs both sides. That's how we end up with these kind of things internally in the country. Then I'll talk to you about metadata. That one should be a must. And okay, the assumptions are supposed to be the metadata. Then Yeah, now this one goes to us internally as the data producers, as the NFA, or soon to come Ministry of Water and Environment. Standard operating procedures. We had some standard operating procedure for producing land cover information and also the inventory. But we are trying to update them to meet the current global standards, both national and global standards. Because some of them were not so strict in some areas. Because there was a time when the word carbon did not exist in the forest inventory. The most advanced word by then was biomass. And even the project was named the biomass project, biomass project. But then we have looked at carbon. We are now in emission factors. We are now in Ismania, carbon dioxide equivalents. So things are growing. So we have to update our own internal standard operating procedures in such a way that whatever we produce fits the standards required for the national reporting and the international reporting. So that when we get a consultant now like any other, they don't get into this problem. They know which reports to quote, which ones to leave out, and the technicalities, if they need to inquire, they are already written. And I think that one very more harm, but as I speak now, that one is in its infancy. Like I've said, we're working on the FAO on that, working on the workflows and this for both inventory and government. And we hope to apply them for the production in 2025 land cover data set. So that one is now taken. Then maybe to the consultant about this question, Chika. The consultant should declare whether they sat down, downloaded the images, analyzed them, and they actually extracted the land cover by themselves. Or they used figures from FAO, or they used figures from elsewhere. Because, like I said, we take 2 years to produce one land cover data set. This consultants have been running for a few months now. Okay, you produce something which you are calling the 2025 data set. How did you make it in record time? You can have a product, fine, they can also be, but how accurate will it be? How much checks have you done? Now, like I highlighted the issue of the 200 some plots for accuracy. That's inadequate. Actually, I would hide that one and they didn't mention because scientifically it doesn't tally. So, for the sake of the consultant, you should be clear what he did. If they did a land cover map extraction by themselves, they should kind of show the methodology they used and how they got to their product and its accuracy. It's 80% or 90%, and then how they did it. Then you can be able to compare with ours when it ever comes out, the 2025, and the FAO one, which is really distinct. Otherwise, we are seeing the values, but we don't know how the thing was done in such a short time. So it also can talk to the differences that we're seeing, or we're yet to see. So I don't know if I've exhausted anything, but yeah, we have those things.
Inconsistency.
Yeah, they are there, we know what we're supposed to do, but the frameworks in which are operating kind of does not accept to be harmonized what we want as scientists. We're saying we should have silos talking to each other. But there are more efforts to create more silos than making them link up. So that's a very big issue. Because there was a time when we suggested that as NFA that we create a national data infrastructure. such that every agency related to land can know where its resources are. It should be work with the national parks, it should be ministry with their wetlands and forests, it should be the roads, so telecom companies and power distributors. So when you are doing something in your sector, you are affecting some sectors around you. Because if a grader comes for digging a trench to put in water pipes, you're busy cutting optical cables for internet or power cables for electricity, just because you are ignorant about what is standard. But otherwise, if all these things were integrated, we would know what is where, so that we will work consistently and with caution. And also, without synergies, we cannot have complementary efforts within the sector. For example, we have got what's it called? Dedicated group of private farmers doing their thing, growing fields. But you find that there's information they have that the ministry does not have, or that energy does not have. Okay? We may have the polygons right there, but that is that. Yet when you want to create better biomass estimations and maybe probably emission factors, you need to get information from these people because they do measure their crops, because they are dedicated to them since they are private. So how do you make how do you bring that part of the private sector to harmonize their data collection or to share some of the data with the institutional that leaves them now, like guys in CCD, ministry, SSD. So those are the linkages that we are missing, and we are not seeing enough effort going towards oiling that process of fluid, quick data sharing. Because you find that I don't need to know everything about the advanced plantation. I don't want to know who is owning what. I want to know, okay, we have measured you have so many hectares according to our system, but we'd like to know what's the average DPH of any plantation? What's the average height of any plantation? How old are these trees? Then I'll use that to calculate my things like the site index for that area, without doing a lot of work because you have already done it yourself. So that simple data sharing, just give me the data that I need, not everything, is what we are missing. How do we harmonize it? How do we synchronize it? Actually, that's a very big work towards now the ministry, because it should be now watching ways of how to get this data from the various private sector players. People who have orchards and you want to measure their biomass. So I think that's what I can say about data sharing.
How did Tanzania manage to streamline their data? Because when you are presenting, you mentioned that Tanzania has its data components, its data set is almost perfect. What are we not doing right?
Edward has been crying for the last 15 years. Because up to from 2003 is still starting, isn't it? And I think to hope and so how do we invest in other biomass? Because you see, it is the issues that is crying. 3 billion. You have already 170 billion coming in. To make you happy for having done good work those other years. What do you lose to allocate the money, 3 billion? to improve data sets for you. By the way, let me show you the complex environment. Say, we have what we call carbon pools. There are 5 carbon pools, I think. For the last so many years, our inventory has been very put one carbon above ground with so many errors. One. Now we report above ground. Below ground, I've told you, if you check our inventory, we reported this from here, then we run away. You see, that does not want to be difficult things. It is the efforts who are used to somebody. But there are 5 carbon pools. Let me read them for you. Soil, above ground, below ground, dead wood, and litter. Stable products, that one, no, isn't it? And the different categorization. Nothing about what's that word? I think it's above ground. But it's not a pool. Sorry, it's a pool.
Yeah.
I'm talking about pools. There are 5 pools. Me, the ones I know. I'm repeating them. Soil, above ground, below ground, dead wood, and litter. The last 2, you don't even temper. Huh? You don't temper. The ones we try to be serious above ground, but you have seen even above ground, if you dig deeper, you see problems. Huh? For soil, that one, I told the people it is for God and my country. I don't know what people in the narrow are doing. We'll wait to see. But for me, we don't talk about issues of soil. If you are ready to talk about just about
Yeah, that's good feedback from James, and he was saying that the work which was done and it was done last year wasn't all that comprehensive, and it's the complication that effect on the ground. So
you can see, for me, it goes back to FFS. You were a giant sleeping on a huge mandate of data, and you are not using that mandate. Just imagine if you would give us a second biomass study. Just imagine how much information we are going to get. And I want to be honest, maybe I understand this for the last 5 years. Every time we have made, we still talk about 2000 in 2025. Yeah, that's the national biomass study. It's really dangerous. So for me, a key takeaway, one of the things, and I'm going to, this time, look at the promise, I'm going to take it up to the top level. Otherwise, I'm just going to make noise on the estimates until the noise will be hard. And then we are lying, and you now set them together. And you see, when our new boss, the new acting commissioner, my colleague, he told them there are gaps in the inventory. Until we address these gaps, we will fear failure. And for me, I think we looked in each other eye and said, stop lying. Stop lying. The way we have worked with agriculture people is livestock. Some of you did notice. The estimates we are using are for Kenya, not livestock emissions. Okay. Till the Ubosi livestock census, that we got average kg of our livestock. But even you find that even we have now that activity data, translating it into actual emissions as per the standard protocols is talking about another type of. Why? Because in Uganda we are used to extrapolation, expert judgment, and also looking back. You see people here love to use percentage change, assuming our livestock changes weight at 2% per year. You run it, gives you a few. So for me, we need to invest in that. Up to now, I'm sorry to say, I don't believe the forest information management system launched 2 years ago has information. I'm sorry to tell you my friends. But for me, I can tell you, if NFA just hit its activity data like this, you'll see problems in Uganda. If it said, I'm not sharing my Excel tables again, everyone would run like a headless chicken. And you see, these are things we do. But we have huge projects, big projects running. And for me, what pains me so much is that every project gives its own estimations. And no one has ever tried to start it. You see now, why are you estimating these things? Where are you getting them from? No one has to question that because we don't want to annoy our friend. I find it simple. See, he's the expert. Then I said, how do I talk to customer? So the best I keep quiet, I run away, I don't attend that project engagement again until it ends. So, colleagues, these are serious issues. When we are going in carbon trade, I've told you that, and be on the record, the result-based payment we got was a donation. You know, they just gave you money for charity. They just threw money that and said, I'm on party. Maybe because you are performing in restoration. But if we go on the record, those guys are to recalculate what we reported and even we are not eating. My friend, you are still in the hour. But because they are the same people who manipulate it, they are free to pay whatever they want. So, as I conclude to hope and so, please, can we prioritize? It's the biomass. And then it will help us to unpack these additional things, like the carbon pools. We are yet to get the response from Vincent, and I will pray Vincent talks about the carbon stocks. Because even the way we report carbon stocks is interesting. People think carbon stocks are understanding. So we also need to improve our carbon stocks. They are not all good. That's why, if you have seen serious countries in their inventories, they report emissions with LULUCF and without LULUCF. This time in NDC, actually, we are going to do a second NDC. Right? They now agreed that we go to a new year, which would be 2035. So that means we are going to prepare the second NDC. Always we have been on the first NDC. So what some of the improvements you are going to see, we are going to give you total emissions with LULUCF and total emissions without LULUCF. These are some of the silent features we are not seeing. And for me, these are what? These are the improvements. But we can't move alone, when you sectors are supposed to give us the information, you are not giving it to us. We are going to use extrapolation results. And we suffer. And for me, this study, much as still a basic study, it is unpacking for us the gaps. And I pray and I hope that SSD and DFD, you pick lesson and see how you can implement.
Thank you, Bwana Wachimba. Actually, you have said what I wanted to hear. But the problem is you are preaching to the choir. So we knew that is wrong. That is so wrong. That's that. So in that way, we know what we need. The people, we are all aware, but the audience are the decision makers who need to be here. To me, what I'm saying about this report, okay, we can help the consultant to harmonize it and bring it to remove the contradictions. Because in no way should this report contradict what has been done with. Unless it's a new discovery or something. But it should not contradict, because that would be very, very dangerous. So
Actually, that is why we told them, look at the mission.
So it is a very serious matter. The consultant has to do the work of a consultant, consult actually the real sense of consulting. Those points of information that matter. We need to, okay, NFA can help, but the other stakeholders can help. The person like John Beckman, who is our senior when it comes to environmental issues, has to look at this report and also give a comment. So the objective should be that, okay, we are not struggling to kill everybody here, but once we are avoiding chaos, so it can arise if we don't go on. So I pray that the consultant is listening attentively and should be compliant with our message. We harmonize with existing documents and we remove any contradiction. And of course, before, like what you mentioned, Bwana Machika, there's some figures which are already accessible globally when actually they're in. Therefore, it means this report should not be shared or put online before the things are ironed out. Because somebody may jump on it and use it like somebody's their table, which was one which drafted. So I beg the consultant, don't put the thing online anywhere before it is hammered and harmonized. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to borrow your voice, Mr. Bachika. Since you can reach the big tables for me, and stop at the veranda outside. Since this announcement was made that someone is coming, due to the efforts you put in, much as you're saying that it was a donation, I'm saying it is in two ways. It's an opportunity to help us improve, but it's also a trap if we misuse them. If this money goes into things which are not priorities like things which are socio-economic and they forget the core science, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. I am not objecting they should put money there, but they should start with the science part. Because the science helps to inform the other things to do with labels and the CFM and the like. So my prayer is like this to you, Mr. Machika. As you go to back those big tables, you raise your voice on the seriousness of these figures. It seems our leaders don't know the consequences of taking out a wrong figure. It can be one wrong figure and it messes up the whole country.
they should, much as they have seen the consequence of the money coming in, there's also the reverse consequence if the figure is wrong, which can be a negative something, which we are trying to avoid. So, given that, therefore, they should prioritize things with the census, starting with the national biomass inventory in all the 5 schools. Because that's the requirement of the IPCC, if you report comprehensive. Then under that, you have my sister Bob and so what? Bob Gambia, the human resource has to be beefed up to meet that task because it's not small. The ICT infrastructure has to be beefed up to meet the requirements of the current time and age and even going forward. Was which right that on paper but now we should be using electronic gadgets, tablets, electronic calipers. So it could be investing in equipment for mensuration. Of course, the software is again where the software requirements. Then the third one, emphasizing the need for connected silos, connectivity in the silos. Especially on the relevant things. I don't want to know everything that you do. Give us all the data that helps me to work with you and to improve the national product. For example, we know what city wants because they give us a table, Edward of the direction of individual. They will have this table, help us populate. Then the populator will send back and also demand feedback. But they don't need to know all the structure which you have in our database. Some of it is irrelevant to them. But at least they can get what they require of us. So we can do the same with CCD, with the NEMA, with whichever stakeholder. So that connectivity being, I don't know, because the government does not need a moment. I had to stop them. I don't know what method we can use. Whatever it is, whatever the name it takes, I don't care, so long as it works. Fluid and big exchange of information. So that people don't lag behind, don't operate with wrong versions of data and the like. So, then another thing which is usually overlooked, it goes under human resource, basically about the human resource, training. People in this room have been training to do something like that. But when you're going to go from one type to the next, that's an improvement. Improvement comes with the training. So that component of training should not be so that means increase the workforce of the technical people and train them for that purpose. So that means trainings which are for sightseeing, those are not less important. Until somebody is going to, if you want us to training those methods, they're going to our headquarters where our IPCC, very good, can master the things. Or to the country which has mastered how they to do these things properly. We go and benchmark with them and they will learn from them. That kind of training. Because it's common with government. They say, well, give him the equipment, give the money, go and do the work. But then, you forget about the quality of what you're going to produce because of the maintaining capacity of us as a team. And then the last one, the national publication. Some institutions are able to publish because it's their culture, like NEMA, you can publish quickly. Then there are others who have got a chronic disease failing to publish like NS. And I think even my other ministry, a project is done, it consumes like $1 billion shillings, it is concluded, very nice work, but then there is nothing left, either online or in the shelf. So people come after. All those who are looking for permanent development, you can't see what you need. And it can be very frustrating. I can tell you. So I don't know how that can be handled, but communication of these works have to be among the priorities. Whether they are internal to the ministry or even external, if Utica has done something which is relating to the pools, let's publish here. If they don't have that capacity, can help them to publish it, so it becomes local. Something which I've failed for the last 10 years. Very industry. I don't know if it is really forgive but that is something. Okay, from the NFA side, we see individuals, projects, and what claiming to do restoration, Manyamichi, and then they are handpicking where to go the restoration. But we know anything has got some restoration projects as a authority. Because there are some which are done under the ministry. Who keeps that register which shows that which player is doing what, where, and when? For the country, not only for ministry or anything, as far as this topic is concerned. Because if we don't have, we're going to end up with the double counting. No? Double counting is the biggest danger, but also can also miss out other activities which are being done because we don't know about them. For example, recently I discovered a project in understands by the ministry. And I was and it came as an exam by the way. I think it came from PS. PS because I want to know how much they have restored. It becomes to my desk receipts. I opened it. So now there is some called local. I want you to show me using your technology what has been restored. I asked you by you. You mentioned an abbreviation. Those are the all about things. This is a new one. Was a very declared power restored about 2,000 hectares. Morocco is about 9,000 hectares. So I was wondering, but they could maybe there are 3 farmers there. What? So if I was a registry somewhere, I would pick somebody at the registry to help me as far as of today. If it's there, please let me know where it is. But it goes back to what we're discussing. The emissions, because this restoration is towards carbon.
But are they there?
I looked for the signs and symptoms of restoration using what says what I can see are a few hectares of natural forest left. I need to know what it is. I need to go to ground to find out and see what if the thing is still young. I need to see fish on that. It's all that so it can be very embarrassing. I end up embarrassing or the running the project just because you don't know.
20, 20
They just return the people.
National Bahamas event rate in 4 or 5 carbon goods. Human resource, IT infrastructure, connectivity, and of course, cyber, publishing, no, the 7 platform. Yeah,
Registry.
yes, we are not in sir. I don't know at what time are we listening from Vincent. Vincent, are you still online?
Yes, I'm still on. Still on.
Please, we don't know if we can listen to you now.
Yes, let me
Only
say
the
something.
that we have been addressed.
Yeah, I think most of the issues have been talked about. One thing I would say is it would serve better if I provided a revision, and then these small issues are knocked out. We realize that most of the issues are beyond this assignment. For example, in terms of harmonization uh, of estimations, the disparities that we are seeing from the, like say the forest resource assessment, and then our data, it is an issue. Yes, I liked the comments from Mr. Edward. I really picked them up, and in terms of there's some, of course, there are some nitty-gritties we need to knock out. In terms of the statements that go into this report, it is sensitive in terms of the mission factors and also the generalization of or the assumption that all I would say reportings are based on Tier 1. There is need to clarify on that, and indeed I will clean it up and state with assumptions where something else was adopted beyond what is seen in the national circumstances. Then in terms of, there was a request in terms of whether there was a classification of the Sentinel data for 2025. That's how we came up with this map. And then the assumptions will be made and the refinement that was made will be clear in terms of classification and then accuracy assessment. The percentage also will be stated either in the appendix or within the write-up. Yes, now for the rest of the discussion, of course, has been centered on to what I would have said I looked at in the recommendations, because you realize that a lot of efforts are going on. They are either not captured or not even followed up. Okay, so that goes back to probably the legal and policy setup. You talked of the issue of data control, report sharing and all that. This work is owned, and I would say solely owned by Emily. And so I believe there will be much control whether the report has been agreed upon, which I believe it will be agreed upon, but still control will be there for it. However, when it comes to issues to do with the explanations, I saw you are talking about issues to do with analysis of existing and new approaches. Yes, I would say maybe a little revision would be in terms of the context for Uganda, because that was general of the approaches being used, but also we can make it to demonstrate what Uganda or what level Uganda is at, and I think that would give us the picture for the existing and then the future. Yes, the rest of the discussion, indeed, when you take time to analyze the Tier 2 and 3 sets comes into play to give us the good data. However, the mega challenges remain in terms of financing, in terms of equipping the department, in terms of managing this data. For example, let's talk about remote sensing. With remote sensing, for the countries that report in Tier 2 and 3, you realize that the department has a whole satellite, or the presence, like say the current day use of LiDAR. You find that, for example, I was looking at Amazon as an example where they mapped Yes, they used 1,000 ground truthing points, but they used LiDAR to assess 406, plots. These were followed up, but I would say it would serve better if, like, say, FSSD has most of these resources to go ahead, even if it would take us years to come up with the final data that we can defend, and actually we can argue out against these global resource assessments or estimates. Because at the end of the day, we would be very sure of what we have. And then, in terms of the models, coming up with biomass factors and emission factors, the training still is needed in terms of plot level, or I would say also the pool levels. I mean, we are still reporting in I would say in lump sum. Okay, we're reporting above ground and below ground. Yes, I liked it that we had a discussion where we went into what about other pools. Now, that alone is enough refinement for us to gain confidence in terms of what we really report, even if one chooses to go with above ground, but at least they're reporting from an informed point of view. And I think that's all I can say for now. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks. And it's been a candid conversation, and that's what we need. And I think Edward has drafted and made what, whereby the Sultan should address the points that we have forwarded and probably share with us the revised report. Yeah. So that's, there was a question on objective 2 and 3. I don't know if this has about before in this quote to get down, you understand it. Yes. I think I can't listen.
Yes. There was a question on table.
On objective 2 and 3, how did you understand that? And because they seemed from Edward.
How different are they?
Yeah, they seem to be the same.
Okay. Objective 2 is basically carbon stock, either gains or losses. And then here we are looking at emissions that would have happened, or that would come from these losses and gains. Basically we are looking at emissions for objective 3. Unless your suggestion would have been combining them, but I still find it okay when they're separated and we report them different and so.
Well, okay, if I look, when I look at objectives 2, which says quantify forest carbon losses and gains. When I lose the carbon stock, that's an emission. When I gain a carbon stock, that's a removal. So that's why I was trying to see how I could differentiate these ones in the results, because there's a direct correlation between carbon stock and emissions. So, I mean, when you say losses, if I just carbon stock only without what losses or gain, it would be okay. That would mean what is there at the time of reporting. But you're talking of losses and gains, which is the same as emissions and removals. That's why I was seeking that clarification.
Okay, I think that is noted.
I have that observation.
Yes, maybe. Okay.
No, you can.
Yes. There was, I think, an observation still by Edward on on table, I think it was from the analysis of potential mitigation potential. No. I think in table 3, where we talked about where we look at I was referring to 2.2, and it was about biomass and then land cover. No, the difference is about the classes, which is discussed in 2.2, but the subsection is under biomass. Okay, so it is saying we adopted the classes discussed up. It is not entirely on biomass, but it is about the classes mentioned under that section.
So
And then maybe yes.
Maybe you can just tweak around the language to make sure it's clear exactly what you're trying to say. Because when I read it, it was telling me to go back and look for biomass the other side.
No.
Our Ugandan English is it's like that. It's so direct.
Okay, I get.
Maybe before you continue, something very critical you mentioned at the end of your submission about remote sensing. You mentioned the very serious name called Sentinel-2. Okay? Now, Sentinel-2, but then in your inputs for the 2025, you mentioned Landsat 7 and Landsat 8.
Oh, no, even Sentinel-2 is talked of.
Wait.
Look at the last paragraph of image processing and classification.
That section.
Yeah, it is Sentinel-2 level 2A imagery aided classification of 2025.
Now, from my technical point of view, when you say aided, what do you mean?
Okay, probably you would want me to change to say it was used for classification. Oh, we classified that because I would say it was used. The imagery used is of this sensor.
Now, that means the sentence which begins with satellite data consisted of Landsat 7 ETM plus and Landsat 8 only TIRS for 2015 to 2019 imagery. The Landsat images were preliminarily screened, and only those with a maximum of cloud cover 10% were selected and downloaded from USGS photo, the local station, and analyzed. While Sentinel-2 imagery aided in classification. So from my understanding, you analyzed Landsat imagery. Sentinel-2 data was helping you to do the quality check. That's what it says.
Okay, I will revise to really depict what was done for Landsat 8.
But that has consequences. You should be careful. It has consequences, which goes to what Mr. Wachika was saying, changing the values, and what I mean. When you change the sensor, your forest cover values are going to change. So keep that in mind. Yeah, from Landsat to Sentinel, you're going to get a slight increase in forest cover. Why? The resolution is different.
Yes.
You're going to see more than you could see in Landsat. So keep that one very close.
Okay, I think we are coming to the end of this day's meeting, but I guess Vincent, we are requesting that you review the comments and then send us a revised report. And our suggestion is 2 weeks, and then you send us a report. Would that work for you?
Yes, I think 2 weeks is okay. 2 weeks, that is by 20th November.
Yeah, that's by 20th. And also, like Edward said, it would be prudent if you benchmarked and reached out to him. And I think you are still reviewing the report. So.
Actually, I would request for this email,
Yeah,
so when I get something,
yeah,
I don't have to wait for 2 weeks.
exactly. Okay,
Okay,
so
that would be
listen.
grateful.
I think an email is your email in
Yeah, is in the
Yeah.
email trail.
Yeah, it's there, so. I will always reach out for anything, but we'll be waiting. As of now, I think we can close this and await recent revised reports, but in case you have any other comments that you can note something to give or support, recent, if you need support, please reach out. We can see how best to go, because this is all of us, we need this to be going for the country. So thank you very much, and everyone, thank you for sparing time and being located. We appreciate your support. Yeah, have a lovely day ahead.
Thank you much. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah. it's-
Thank you for nice.
Since that, bro.
Thank you so much.